Yeah, Pooja.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our online masterclass on reviewing films from a gender perspective with Aruna Raje Patil. We are very happy to see so many of you sign up for the masterclass, and it just gives us more confidence about how topics like this needs to be discussed. Before we proceed, I would like Dr. Shada, CEO of Population First, to begin with the opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Shada.
Thank you, Pooja. And thank you, each and every one of you who is here today. And as Pooja said, it gives us a lot of encouragement when we get good response to our initiatives. And as we were discussing with Aruna just a few minutes back, we really feel young media persons are the future of our country, because you're the ones who are going to determine the way issues are going to be projected, reported in the media. There's a lot that needs to be changed. There's a lot that we want to be done better. And I feel it is very important to start conversations. One of the most important influential media in our society or in our country or in the world is uh, are the films, and then they have such an impact on people, the way they think. They can be pure entertainment. Sometimes they are very, very, they have a message. Sometimes they really make you, sort of they shake you up and then make you think about certain things in a different way. One of the movies which really I feel falls in that category is Aruna's Rihai. I saw it when it was released and I said, wow, what a movie. And I recommended it to everyone. And then even today, I recommend it to people to watch it. It's almost 30 years since it released. And it was much, much ahead of its times. But I think it's much, much easier to talk about those issues now than it was in, say, 80s. So it made me think about the issues, right? It made me, like I, s- I felt like, yeah, this is a very important point. How come I haven't thought about it earlier? So this is something which is that is the power of media, and I'm sure many, many people have also felt that way, the way I have felt, and then started giving more attention to the issues of the freedom of women to choose and the freedom of women to express their sexuality, and also to sexual relationships, define their sexual relationships. And but unfortunately, uh, there's not much conversation about films from a gender perspective. We have many people reviewing the films, but the gender perspective is missing. And I feel it is time, it is important that we look at the films from a from gender perspective, because uh, uh, it's very important that uh, we look at this important aspect of communication, because when we communicate, and if we are communicating in a very subtle and subliminal fashion, certain messages which reinforce gender stereotypes, rationalize gender based violence, or just justify inequalities, I think it is time that we call it out. And we can call it out when we are reviewing the films. When we are reviewing the films, if we make gender as an important element of the review, I think we can create a general awareness about the issue among the population, among the readers, and also create work. We can be the sounding board for the uh, filmmakers who can see where they are going wrong. Because many times in many films, people think, or directors think, that they are doing some great work, and they are actually promoting gender sensitivity or women empowerment, but end up communicating exactly the opposite message. So the internalized misogyny, the internalized patriarchy that we all have, needs to be highlighted. And we, particularly when writing the reviews. So it's important that we talk about the craft. It is important to talk about the visual impact and technical finesse of the film production, etc. But equally important is what is the message that the film is conveying, whether it is about gender, disability, or whatever it is, because inclusiveness is very important, and film is a very, very strong medium. And today we have with us Aruna Raje, who I didn't know her till a month back. But when she said she's the one who made the film Rihai, I was flying. Like I was so impressed, and I was so glad that I met her, and I think it is my good fortune that I met her. And today it's all our good fortune that she's here to take the master class. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aruna. We are
Thank you.
really looking forward to a very lively session from you. And I request each and every one of you to please be very active, listen to her, ask questions, and make the whole conversation a two-way process. And we really want to take it further, maybe, if required in another session. But whatever it is, we want you to be engaged in the conversation and in the process. Thank you so much. Over to Aruna.
Yes, Pooja.
Yeah. So, reviewing films from a gender perspective matters because movies aren't just for entertainment, they influence how we see the world. Looking at films from a gender angle, we can spot biases, challenge stereotypes, and demand stories we want to see and stories that need to be highlighted. Aruna Raje Patil, a speaker today, knows this point. Aruna is a critically acclaimed writer, editor, director, and producer. She graduated from the Film Institute of India with a gold medal and was the first female technician in the Indian film industry. A winner of 6 national awards for her documentaries, A New Paradigm, Malika Sarabhai, and Behind the Glass Wall, and many state awards. She has been making advertising films, documentaries, and features, namely Shak, Gehrai, Sitam, Rehai, Patita Pavana, Patita Pavani, Bhairavi, Kehdona, and Tum. She has also edited films like Vamsha Vriksha, Faniyama, Gidd, and Masoom. Her latest film, Firebrand, produced by Priyanka Chopra, is on Netflix. Actively involved in film education, she has been part of decision-making bodies and teaching in many film schools. She has been Vice President of the Film Institute of India Society, Pune, and Vice Chairman of the Governing Council of the Film and Television Institute of India. She's also been part of Academic Council. She designed the curriculum syllabus and also brought in faculty and trained them for the Whistling Woods International Film School, heading the academics as Vice President as well as the Direction Department. Passionate about documentaries, she has headed the Indian Documentary Producers Association as president twice in the past. She has founded Shift Focus, a school for cinema and life. She has led transformational programs for more than 50,000 people as a life coach and is a strong voice for gender equality, empowering men and women to find a new equation to live in peace and harmony. Her autobiography, Freedom, My Story, is an inspiring account of her life and films. We have the unique privilege of learning from a true trailblazer. Aruna ma'am, we are deeply honored to have you with us today, and we can't wait to delve into this very interesting topic with you. All the participants, please put your name and what organization you are from in the chat box as a small introduction. Also, please don't hesitate to put all the questions you have in the chat box. We will take those up at the end of the session. We also like to request people, as it's a little boring to talk to little boxes on the screen. Thank you. Over to you, Aruna ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharda, and thank you, Pooja. First of all, Sharda, for inviting me to do this because this is very close to my heart. This whole topic, this whole conversation, this whole engagement. And thank you for this opportunity. Pooja, thank you so much for the teamwork and for... Are we ready? Like Pooja said, can we all come on screen so that we can see? Otherwise, I'll be looking at blank black holes. Like, all right, please do that. So let's begin right at the beginning. We are talking of gender. So, but there's another word that's often mixed with gender. Two words synonymously, used synonymously, but are different. What are those two words? Anyone? If one word is gender, the other is
Discrimination.
Sex. So these two words are often used interchangeably, despite having very different meanings. They are not the same thing. In normal parlance, we say refer to sex, the classification of male or female assigned at birth. It could also mean gender identity, the internal awareness an individual possesses of their own gender. Earlier, people referred gender as binary and neuter, but things have changed the last so many years, addressing different orientations not limited to birth or biological context. Today, you will find male, female, or neuter, just one of a range of other identities that do not correspond to the established ideas of male and female. So, gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of girls, women, boys, men, and gender diverse people. So, let's look at this. Pooja, will you put this up, please? Yeah. See, gender is a socially constructed conversation, and sex is a what we say biological attribute of humans and animals, including physical features, chromosome, gene expression, hormones, and anatomy. Can we see the next slide? Yes. Now let's look at this again. Gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identity of girls, women, boys, men, and gender diverse people. It influences how people perceive themselves and each other, and how they act and interact, and the distribution of power and resources in society. Gender identity is not confined to a binary, girl, woman, boy, man, nor is it static. It exists along a continuum and can change over time. There is considerable diversity in how individuals and groups understand, experience, and express gender through the roles they take on, the expectations placed on them, relations with others, and the complex ways that gender is institutionalized in society. It's very, very critical that we understand this, because there is so much diversity now. And if you want to have a world that works, then it means being inclusive. Now let's look at what is sex. Sex refers to a set of biological attributes in humans and animals, primarily associated with physical and physiological features, including chromosomes, gene expression, hormone levels and function, reproductive sexual anatomy. Sex is usually categorized as male or female, but there's a variation in the biological attributes that compose sex and how these attributes are expressed. All right, we can take it off now. So does it make sense? Is it kind of clear? And there are many different gender identities today, including male, female, transgender, gender neutral, non-binary, and all the shades of LGBTQIA+, agender, pangender, genderqueer, two-spirit, third gender, and all combination of these. There are supposed to be 107 gender identities currently listed in 2023. We are not going to go into all of them, but those who are interested can definitely go and check it out on the internet. So I have a question for everyone. Why is understanding gender important? Why do you think it's important?
Please raise your hand and then respond immediately, okay? So that we don't waste time. And whoever wants to answer, just raise your hand and then respond.
To understand how society is structured, somebody said, okay. Why is it important?
I think it's a kind of a core behavior, how one perceive, and I think that's how the reflection happens, and that's that I think the front ground for the interaction between a people. So I think it sets the tone of I don't know, not a bit of a tone of a personality, it ground that personality with an
Okay. Somebody said to the power of relations operating in society for an equitable society. Yeah. All right. Is anyone else?
Was the first set of rules that were imposed on us, right, when we were born. So it's, I think, extremely critical that we look at it. When we were born, the nurse just yelled, ladka hua hai, ladki hui hai. So I think it all began with
Yeah,
that
they all
moment.
began with sex, identifying you male or female from your biological, this thing, your physical characteristics. And then you realize there's something more. Yeah, there's something more. You can be not what you were be born with. All right, so let's look at why it's important. Is as human beings, we're all supposed to have equal rights. You agree with me? But often people that don't seem to fit in a mainstream majority get sidelined. We've all various levels of discrimination, various aspects of discrimination. And if you're not in a mainstream majority, you're going to get sidelined. Women who are not even minority have been marginalized for hundreds of years because of the prevalence of patriarchy and male domination. So us women, they feel very marginalized. So much is not available to them. So the issue is to create space for acceptance for every kind of person and bring a level playing field, as it were, for their existence, because every person is important. If you look at the binary statistics, mostly people talk binary, but if you look at the binary statistics, just like a couple of years ago, men were 50.4% as against women were 49.6%. Imagine half the world is denied a full life and get only limited resources. Now, regarding other genders, there's a very, very small percentage. In the US, which is supposed to be a very, forward nation and all that, 3.5% LGBTQ and 0.3% transgenders. And that also people who have come out. And if you haven't come out, then you're in the closet. And for those who are not clear what it is, coming out of the closet or coming out means self-disclosure. Now, many people remain hidden, hiding their sexual orientation for lack of social acceptance or homophobia, which is dislike or prejudice against gay people. So that's what keeps people in the dark. And then, what kind of a life do you get then? When we talk of gender equality, we mean that people of all genders must have equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities. All of society is impacted by gender discrimination in some way or another, beginning with denial of rights and a space for people to be themselves. Now, gender inequality affects women, men, trans, gender diverse people, children, families across all ages, all backgrounds, irrespective of the level of education or social status. So it's right across the board. Now, the terms man and woman refer to a person's gender, which encompasses a socially constructed characters that traditionally differentiate the binary. Unlike a person's biological sex, which an individual's reproductive organs and secondary sex characteristics define, genetics alone do not determine a person's gender. Yeah. A person's gender may include specific social roles, norms, and expectations that differentiate men and women. These characteristics are subjective, they differ among societies, social classes, and cultures. So the gender by which anybody identifies themselves depends on the individual. And it is much more fluid than biological sex. Because as he said, when I was born, मेरे को लड़का बोल दिया. But that was what you were assigned when you were born. But, in the present conversation, we say, when we identify with the gender that society associates with the biological sex, they call cisgender men and women. Now, I'm not going into too much detail with that. Let's see how it's going to make a difference to us. Human beings are social animals. And for them to coexist, expressing their full human potential with productivity and full self-expression, they must be able to accept each other for sustainable development of the societies the world over, with no one left out, not even one single person left out. Now, cinema and the content we see on television or internet is a mass medium of immense research. It has a very, very powerful impact on human beings. If the stories that are put out and the way they are put out do not reflect the inclusion and empowerment of all genders, it affects society negatively. Would you agree with me? Wouldn't it have a negative impact if all are not included, if all are not heard or listened to? So issue most of the time is lack of awareness. The other reason is the strong and intolerant views and prejudices on gender diversity, including women simply because they're women. Now, where does this happen? Gender inequality happens in our homes, everywhere we go, but most of the time we don't even notice it. It just seems normal the way things are. So we are going to try and understand at a deeper level, actually, what have we missed out looking at that? We need to increase our awareness and alter our perception to make a difference everywhere, wherever we are. Now, having said all this, are you ready for a quiz? We're going to give you a quiz. So let's see how you do. Because that's going to be an eye-opener, I must tell you that. Pooja, can you put out the quiz? Now, the first one says women account for X% of the world's illiterate people, and you have to select one of the three. Okay. The second one is at least one in X number of women will experience some form of violence during their lifetime. Again, choose one. Around X million women alive today were married as children. Yes, do we have the next part?
Can you all see the screen?
Oh, actually, you have to scroll, is it? No. How does it work?
Yeah, I think only.
We could see now the fourth one is there. About X number of women die from pregnancy or childbirth related complications around the world every day. Are you answering them? Yeah. So, Pooja, I can't see anything beyond this 4. Can everyone see beyond 4? Have you got it?
Yes.
Yes. We can
Okay,
see
you can, but
Yes.
I can now. Now I'm able to do it. Okay. Number 5 is adolescent girls and young women constitute X% of all young people living with HIV. Take a guess. Number 6, on an average, women are paid X percentage less than men. Seven, in X countries, women are not allowed to do the same jobs as men. 8, only X% of all national parliamentarians are women. 9, of the 500 largest corporations in the world, only X number have a female executive officer. The last one is women own less than X% of the world's land. You have 3 options again. Are you ready to see the answers?
We are still getting more answers.
Yeah.
You're getting the answers. Tell me when they are done, then I'll.
Yeah, we're at 60%. Most people have read it. We're just waiting for a few more. Is there any last, there are still answers rolling in. If you all could
Okay.
quickly answer in the next 1 minute, and we'll end.
We'll end
so
the
that
poll.
we can look at the results.
Okay. We can end the poll now. Okay.
Yeah, you want to tell us
Yeah.
the
So,
results?
yes. You're going to, ma'am, are you going to share your screen now?
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
share the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the first,
Is everybody?
So you want me to go
seeing
first
the-
with
You are
that?
able to
Okay,
see
I
the
can do that.
results.
And then you can tell us how many % got it right.
okay.
You can do that. I'm going to share the screen. Can you see this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the first one was women account for, 1 second, take the quiz.
Hmm.
Women account for X% of the world's illiterate people. Let's see, 67.
Seven. And our result?
Nearly 2/3 of the world's 781 million illiterate adults are women, 67%. Despite all the progress made over the past 2 decades, girls are still less likely to be enrolled in schools than boys. Such inequalities remain deeply rooted, and in many societies, girls' education is not seen as a priority. According to UNESCO, in current trends continue, 15 million girls, roughly between the ages of 6 and 10, will never set foot in a classroom compared to 10 million boys. How many of you are surprised? Yes, it's much more than we can even think. All right, the next one is, 1 second. At least 1 in X women will experience some form of violence during their lifetime. The answer is 3. It is estimated that 35% of women, more than 1 billion women worldwide, have experienced either physical or sexual violence at some point in their lives, this figure being as high as 7 in 10 in some countries. Women who've been physically or sexually abused are more than twice as likely to have an abortion, almost twice as likely to experience depression, and in some regions, 1.5 times more than to acquire HIV or another sexually transmitted infection. Now let's look at the third one. Around X million women alive today were married as children. 650. Approximately 650 million women alive today were married before their 18th birthday. Globally, about 1 in 6 adolescent girls, 15 to 19, are currently married or in union. Child early and forced marriage has many devastating consequences and often leads to the violation of several other human rights. It increases girls' risk of death or complications during pregnancy and childbirth, interrupts or deprives girls of their education, and puts them at a greater risk of sexual, physical, and emotional violence. I'm going to look at the next one. About X number of women die from pregnancy or childbirth related to complications around the world every day, and that is 830. Maternal deaths are the second biggest killer of women of reproductive age. Every year, 300,000 women die from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth, about 830 every day. 99% of them in developing countries. Maternal deaths vary widely between regions and countries, evidencing a high level of inequality. They reflect that women often have little or no control over their fertility and reproductive health, as well as inequities in access to health services. You also know, you might have been aware of what is happening even in a country like US. Women have no control. Women have no rights in many of the states. All right, let's look at the next one. Sorry. Next one is about how many people having HIV, how many women having HIV, and we are saying 61. For women aged 15 to 44 years, HIV AIDS is the leading cause of death worldwide. Young women and adolescent girls are particularly affected. Globally, in 2016, there was an estimated 2.4 million, constituting 61% of all young people living with HIV. Young women and girls aged 15 to 24 are twice as likely to be at risk of HIV infection compared to boys and young men. 7,000 of them become infected every week. The higher risk is associated with unsafe and often unwanted and forced sexual activity. Right. The next one is, on average, women are paid how much less than men? Globally, women are paid 24% less than men for comparable work across all regions, all sectors. At the current rate of progress, it will take 170 years to close the pay gap. Women are overrepresented in informal and vulnerable employment and bear disproportionate responsibility for unpaid care and domestic work. The global value of women's unpaid care work each year is estimated at $10 trillion, which is equal to 1/8 of the world's entire GDP. These are mind-boggling figures, but we never think of things in such a way. All right, let's look at the seventh one. In so many countries, how many countries women are not allowed to do the same jobs as men? In 100 countries. I can see some, Rohit's eyes are popping out. I can see people are shocked. It is shocking. Till I saw it myself, I was also horrified, Gender differences in laws affect both developed and developing economies and women in all regions. 155 countries have at least one law, which means women have fewer economic rights than men. This includes 18 countries where husbands can legally prevent their wives from working, and 100 countries where women are not allowed to do the same jobs as men. Globally, over 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choices as men. When I see this, I think we are very blessed to be living in India. I really think that. All right. The next one is about the parliamentarians. Sorry. Okay. Only X% of all national parliaments are women. Let's look at this. Women continue to be underrepresented in politics. In national parliaments, on an average of 24% seats were occupied by women as of November 2018, while 21 women were serving as heads of state or heads of government. In many societies, traditional role divisions between men and women inhibit women taking on more roles and occupations in public life. And when they do, they're often faced with obstacles. I don't know how many of you are aware, just recently we had our own Indian parliament. The figures were put out, they were like 14% and 18% representation in parliament, much below the world average. So now that the women's bill is passed, I think we can hope to see many more women, though I don't know when it will actually come into existence. All right, the next one is about the CEO. Of the 500 largest corporations, how many have a female CEO? Only 5. In the private sector, women are constrained from achieving the highest leadership positions. You see, the glass ceiling continues to exist. They currently hold 5.2% of CEO positions at the 500 largest company, which remain male-dominated. Women are less likely to be entrepreneurs and face more disadvantage starting businesses. In 40% of economies, the early stage entrepreneurial activity is half or less than half of that of men's. But again, here in India, we're doing, better and better. Every day we hear stories of women entrepreneurs and unicorns starting and all of that. So that's where we are. Sorry, here. All right, the last one is women own less X% of the world's land, and we will say 20%. Less than 20% of the world's landholders are women. Existing statutory and customary laws restricts women access to land and other types of property in most countries in Africa, half the countries in Asia. Women's lack of access to and control over resources limits their economic autonomy and increases their vulnerability to economic and environmental shocks. So I'm going to stop this now and I want to see your reactions. What do you think? Are you shocked? Are you surprised? Are you horrified?
We have some comments in the chat box.
Yeah.
People are saying, not surprised, shocked and statistics. The job statistics was really shocking, shocked and surprised. Surprised.
Yeah. So having seen this, why do we need gender equality? Why do we need gender equality? How is it going to benefit society, do you think? Or do you think it's okay to continue this way?
Absolutely not. I think everybody everybody will have money, like everybody can just, it'll be a more successful society, you know. I think my partner just mentioned that Stuart Mill was the first sort of feminist who just pointed that out, that everybody, you know, the unpaid labor, the $10 trillion
Yeah, can you
statistic
imagine?
itself, that's just, you know.
That's right. Anyone else? Why do we need? See, we are all thinking people. Why do we need gender equality? How will it make a difference? Yeah. Everybody's having their thinking caps on.
It'll also, if I can just say a couple of things more, it'll also open our society up for like more creativity, more joy. Like there'll be more space for, you know, just humans to express themselves and explore
Absolutely.
self-expression, right? I mean, and I think that should, like, it's not valued in our society, but I think that's what I think
Yeah,
we are being hoodwinked by these gender roles. We are being fooled into not being able to explore our humanity to the fullest. If,
absolutely. You're very, very right. See, there are many things here, how it would, first of all, limiting resources to half the people in the world. They don't have resources to land, they don't have resources to credit, they don't have access to technology. Most of the women don't even have an idea of financial literacy. Simple things, or how do you save money, or how do you do banking, or how do you many things, it's never considered important. Or then the other thing is importance of education. Girls are still not starting or finishing primary school at the same rate as boys. In many countries, girls never make it to the high school. And poverty and living in rural areas with no access to education, early marriage, the girls are at a big disadvantage, and it has consequences not just for them, their families, and all of society. Now, as we were saying, workplace, women work 2/3 of the world's working hours and earn only 10% of the world's income. How unfair can that be? Now, the next one I was going to talk about is gender-based violence. The trauma of sexual abuse for any gender, not limited to women, for any gender is huge. It contributes to so much ill health, both physical and mental. It prevents people, the vast majority, of course, a lot of women, from living normal lives like everyone else and contributing to society, living your life, the gift of life that you've got, you can't even enjoy it just because it's unequal thing. And the unbalanced coexistence. Even though women, as I said, form almost 50% of the population, the experience is somewhere we are less than men. We are marginalized. Because of that, the full potential, as you said, is never realized. They can do anything that men can do, but because they are not allowed to do, who or what suffers is a society itself, which is held back with 50% development kept under the leash of patriarchy. Patriarchy ne gale mein patta bandh diya na, so 50% doesn't perform, can't perform, not allowed to perform. There could be so much growth, development, creativity. When you think, we're all operating at 50%, you can say. So now the question I want to ask you, and please come out with some answers, because this is a very simple question I'm asking. And anyway, it's not a test or something, so don't worry about what you're saying. Where do we see gender inequality in life, and what is the impact? Where do you see it in everyday life?
I think it's a game of a perception, because the somebody who has a voice and the stakes in a situation most of the time not being listened, and how someone perceives that person and his situation, makes the decision based on that, and sometimes they are not something which is right for that particular person. So I think there's no listening, they don't have the voice, so the perspective is always like what you perceive out of a situation, and that really create an imbalanced situation in everyday life, I think, from very basic to who will run the household chores to being a CEO and taking a command over a decision. So I think it's always a
So it's a role that makes a difference. You see how the unequal roles that you're talking about and the perception of what those roles mean. It means, like, for example, I'll give you an example. There was a time I was called to empower women judges, and they were judges, they were getting the salute, they were getting the red beacon light and people bowing before them, but they had no power. But they were just ordinary people and ordinary housewives, and bullied and battered, and even the male advocates would they bully them in the court, because they looked at them as, after all, ये औरत है, क्या कर सकती है, क्या करेगी, क्या बोलेगी. And because if she gives a ruling, then they can go and bully her outside court anyway. So these are the things that exist in society, and it's very real. So, but the thing is, where do we see this? We see in our own homes. Have you noticed in your own homes?
We have a lot of that responsibility at
Yeah.
home and at work.
Okay.
Any example in your own home? See, that is very important to be aware, because they're little things. If I come to your house, who's going to give me water, the girl or the boy? Or who's going to make tea for me, the girl or the boy? That's the starting point. Simple.
People have responded with household activities, distribution of household chores, access to education and play, distribution of household chores again. Only girls will cook. Head of the family is a man.
Yeah. That's right.
One will cook
Inequality
more
at
than their
home.
father.
Yeah. There are lots of examples. Who buys property? Who decides what property to be bought? Who decides what car to be bought? Who decides which university the son will go to? Yeah. What about the pay scale? And what about, there are lots of stories, and they're real stories, when a girl comes and says, this person made me feel uncomfortable. There was inappropriate touching. And the mother says to the father, or mother tries to, either the mother suppresses or the father suppresses, and they don't deal with it. Now, isn't that terrible? I mean, like ignoring complaints of women who are sexually harassed, either at the workplace or in the home or wherever. Men deciding what women should do, not do, where. Women kept not seen on public platforms, no financial literacy provided, misogynistic patriarchal approach, and the portrayal in cinema and mass media like advertising and social media content. So what is the impact of this inequality? Can somebody tell me? What is the impact? How do women feel? I want the women at least speaking up. How do you feel when you're sidelined?
Yeah, women are suppressed for that.
Okay.
They feel suppressed. We don't have a voice. That is what we had. As a girl child, we were three sisters. I mean, it was, we were never allowed to even speak to our father. We would never sit with our father and speak to him. It was anything we had to convey to daddy, it was only via our mama.
Yeah.
And the same thing, even after we got married, I mean, I was so shy to even talk to my own husband. Although we were from a co-ed, but talking to a boy was a big taboo. You
Yeah.
know, but times have changed now. They have changed, but not to that extent. Maybe their times have changed here in Mumbai city, but in most of the villages, I find the trend is the same.
That's right. And in Mumbai also has got different layers and different areas where you feel it's available and areas where it's not there. So the bottom line is women are basically disempowered. They feel they are not capable. They feel
No,
less intelligent. They feel less smart. They feel
absolutely,
inadequate to handle big
absolutely.
jobs or deal with macro issues.
No,
It's
that is
all,
what when I do, I give awareness talks to women. There's so many legal awareness talks, and then how they I try to empower them.
yeah, that's
I've
what we
empowered
can
more
do.
I'm proud to say that I've empowered 10,000 plus women till date. More than
Wonderful.
10,000 women. Given them
Wonderful.
jobs and given them machines to, that is a basic thing that a woman can do, and then
Yeah.
given her catering jobs that way she can earn her own livelihood. So
Yes,
I've taught them
because
to make paper bags where they make paper bags and sell them.
yeah, because economic freedom is very important to feel you have some worth or of some value. It's almost like they are brainwashed into believing that their job is to serve men since they're not capable enough to do what men do.
Hmm.
And the men, I feel sorry for those men also who treat women equally are ridiculed. The men who support their wives or their daughters are ridiculed and made to feel being less of a man. They become the butt of jokes and face humiliation. So it's not that there are not enough men around who are willing to support, or, they are also discouraged to treat women as equal partners. Now, what is the impact on the children is you tell the children anything you want, but they will learn from what they see. And the first thing is parents,
They will imitate.
family, teachers. Absolutely. They learn by example. They see and you pick up. You can tell them what you want, but they'll see the environment around them and they'll do that. So it's a huge, huge impact on a very unequal society, very unbalanced society. And, as completely 50% expressed, 50% satisfied, 50% happy. I don't even know if the other 50% are happy because they're not getting 100% participation from the other 50. I think the men also feel very, left out somewhere because the other partners are not playing with them for 100%. Well, now I think we'll also look at, we are saying everywhere around. Now, I know when you say everywhere around, first thing is we need to identify what is this thing that is happening around that we are not noticing and we think is quite normal. So let's look at this conversation of what I call gender stereotypes. Yeah. Now, what is a gender stereotype? We can say that's a generalized view or preconception about attributes or characteristics or the roles that are ought to be possessed by or performed by men, women, and others. Now, when you say gender stereotyping, it refers to the practice of ascribing to an individual woman or man or another specific attributes. They're like this only. This means this is how they are supposed to be and this is how they are. Now, gender stereotyping is wrongful when it results in violation of human rights and fundamental freedoms, because it takes away your freedom when you can't be anything else and you're supposed to conform. It is harmful when it limits women's and men's and other genders' capacity to develop their personal abilities. You're stopped. Pursue whatever careers they want and make choices in their lives. So you're putting a lid on 50% or more people. If I say, okay, 40 something women, and then you take the other genders, that means you're putting a lid on them. They can't express themselves. Now let's look at what are the gender stereotypes. You might have seen or experienced sexism or discrimination based on gender. There are ways to challenge these stereotypes to help everyone, no matter which gender, which identity, to feel equal and valued as people. Now, where you see it, magazines, TV, film, internet, full of negative gender stereotypes. Sometimes these stereotypes are hard for people to see because they are all around you and you don't think it's a big deal. So you don't see it unless it's pointed out. You can see and help others see. So my thing is point out. If you're going to be writing about it, definitely see it, get it, and point it out. So now let's look at what are the gender stereotypes. I want people to call out what are the gender stereotypes. What is how a woman is supposed to be, how a man is supposed to be. Can somebody call out? Please share. Go ahead. This is everybody knows this one.
Man cannot cry.
Yeah, first say and then we'll put it up. Yeah, go ahead.
You can feel free to type on the chat or unmute.
Can you speak loudly, louder?
You all can feel free to unmute yourself and give your answer or write your answer in the chat.
Whoever is talking, it is not audible.
Yeah. So what is the stereotype of man, woman, other gender?
Stereotype man will want to do this only. This is my role, and I'm going to do this role only. He's got that set, the patriarch society, you can say, where it is only the man. The women will not go out of the house. The women will not take any decision. He wants it his way, and it is.
So my way or the highway?
My way or the highway.
Okay, got
There
that.
are some answers in the chat as well. Women are supposed to be in the kitchen. Men are supposed to be the breadwinner. Working man, homemaker woman. Men are supposed to manage finances. Only men take decisions. Men or boys are supposed to be physically strong. They're supposed to not show their emotions.
Very good. Yeah.
Graina, can you please come closer to the mic and speak? It's not very clear.
Yeah. I can read out what they think. It says the women are supposed to be in the kitchen. I'm reading out what people have put out, and men are supposed to be the bread earners, working man, homemaker woman. Man is supposed to manage finances. Only man takes the decision. Men and boys are supposed to be physically strong. They are not supposed to show their emotions. Transgenders are known as hijras. Men don't cry. Men cannot cry. Sexual advances are supposed to be by men first. Those who initiate. So all of this. All right. Now let's put this up and see quickly what we have here. All right, women.
Discrimination. May I speak? Can I speak now?
Yeah, sure.
The discrimination comes in when a woman, she gets up in the morning, she does her housework, she goes to the office, comes back and again resumes the housework. Whereas a man gets up, he goes to the office, comes back and relaxes. So that is where the major discrimination comes in.
Right. Good. All right, let's see the stereotypes. Can you put it up? Yeah. All right, let's look at this. Women, typically feminine, they're supposed to be well-groomed, well-dressed, fair-skinned, beautiful, graceful, obedient, demure, gentle, polite, docile, passive, submissive, subservient, naive, emotional, helpless, accommodating, nurturing, who cook well, clean well, good at household chores, bear children, rare children, nitpicking, not too intelligent. And what are the jobs for you? Nurses, doctors, bank jobs, clerical work. So what does that leave women with? No agency, no choice. This is a standard stereotype. Let's look at men, typically masculine. Strong, macho, confident, physically imposing, bold, ambitious, demanding, brave, courageous, passionate, not emotional, unable to cry, but can deal with almost anything. Financially literate, run machines, drive cars, fly planes, worldly wise. Professions, engineers, doctors, pilots, army, navy, police, company CEOs. And what have got men? The weapon they have is patriarchy and male domination. Let's look at LGBTQIA plus. B, is this B? I don't know. Anyway, neuter, is like hijras, what people call them. They're supposed to be loud, crude, rough, uncouth, using rough language. The other day, Nawaz was sharing his last role he did as a, I think, transgender.
Hadi movie. It was too good.
Yes,
The movie to
right.
be seen.
And he said most of the people I've known are like that. So I didn't do any finer things. I also was loud and crude and rough, uncouth, using rough language, because that's how they are. So now we are not making, we are just showing what they are. Now transgenders are shown as a little weird, gays are shown as effeminate, lesbians are shown as overtly tomboyish with a very short crop cut. And there's a lot of homophobia and prejudice. That's what they have to deal with. Yeah. So imagine what will life look like if you have to go through all this all the time? How do you express yourself in this kind of situation? Now, what can you do? I'm asking, what can you do? Break the stereotype. Notice it, talk about it, write about it, break it, be a role model for your friends and family. Respect people regardless of their gender identity. Include them, be inclusive. Create a safe space for them and their true qualities, regardless of whatever society thinks. Be a living example. And how many of you tolerate sexist jokes and comments? Do you challenge them ever? Do you challenge them?
Yes, I don't, first of all, personally, I do not prefer to listen to all that. You know, when somebody is talking or talking dirty, I just ask them, see, respect me. I don't like to hear that. So that is what I
The
do.
other people, nobody else is talking. Has everybody's nobody, what's happened?
I'm sorry.
No. I'm happy. Everything is talking, but at least someone. I mean, it's almost like I'm happy you're talking actually, because at least we have a conversation going. So please speak up, the other people. They're very bright people sitting here. I know. I can see them, so you can speak up.
And everybody is not expressive, no?
I know, but thank you for speaking up, because I know, but we have to come out and break that thing. We can do it. And this is a very safe space. I mean, I'm harmless. I think so. Am I not harmless? Am I a monster? Am I going to do anything right across the screen? Come and grab you or do something. This is not a horror film.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So speak up. You have to speak up when you see something is, the saying that if you see something is wrong and you're keeping quiet means you're being party to
Wrong.
it.
You're being part of it. You're accepting.
You're accepting it. So it's time to speak up, regardless of what people might say or do. It's really up to you how you want to be and how much it matters to you.
Somebody in the chat, Pratiti Mas, who's saying, I do in my own little way. I used to send my father to buy sanitary napkins. It made him uncomfortable, but it was essential. Yeah.
Yeah, in my writing class, what I do just to bring everyone on a level playing field, I give them an exercise. They have to write one scene, and there are two alternatives. The man goes to a chemist shop and buys sanitary napkins. A lot of people are so awkward. Now, write a story, write a small one screenplay. And then the opposite of that is a girl walks into a chemist shop and buys condoms.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was the exercise. So you have to break these barriers. And if you don't do it, especially for cinema and film, you have to start at the writing level. So before you start writing, also, you have to be very aware. The power of cinema is one part when we do for film appreciation and the language of cinema. And there is all around us, and we're not willing to look at it, or we see it and we ignore it. So it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, madam, but whatever we write, I think there are very few readers to read it.
Yeah, no, but that's how we have to keep putting it everywhere.
Certain class of people read books, that's all. Otherwise, they won't even read it.
Yeah, but we have to keep pushing, there's no other way.
I've published 14 books. So yeah, in the past 2 years, yeah, I started.
Amazing. Keep going.
I started writing in COVID, during COVID times.
Great.
And then in those 2 years, I published 14 books. But then children are I do podcast also. So podcast people hear, They're
Yeah.
used to hearing nowadays, not reading.
So whichever medium, the thing is we need to put it out and we need to stand for something. If you want society 100%, and we want to have our lives work 100%, we want everyone's life to work 100%, no one left out, then we better get off our backside and do something about it. I mean, this is, and I'm not saying go and take up, and go get militant about it. In your everyday life, make a little difference and that will go very far actually. Small things. All right, let's see the impact of when you show these things on, in cinema, web series, television. We say that what we see on screen reflects what exists in society, and that's how filmmakers defend themselves. We say, "Hum kya karenge?" Nawazuddin said, "This is how they are. I'm showing you exactly as they are." But it's also true that films set the standard for social behavior, etiquette, new cultural traditions, and endorse some old, unacceptable behaviors and mindset which the audiences emulate. So people also learn from cinema. We cannot pretend that they don't. Often it can't be helped because, there are mirror neurons. This is a very scientific explanation for it. There are mirror neurons at work. And there's a natural inclination to copy or repeat what you see on screen or even live. So the impact of it is you see the heroes doing eve teasing. Well, that whole from the 70s onwards, eve teasing starting in a very big way, because I've seen that period in my life. Eve teasing, commenting, referring to and treating women as mal, fantasies given by item numbers. Hypersexualization leads to another human problem. The male gaze, encouraging, empowering the male gaze and promoting those kind of values. A lot of boys have a problem
It is not the
taking.
hero, it is a villain who does it, and people follow the villain.
No, today heroes also do it. Hello, heroes are doing it. I'll give you examples. Heroes are doing it. The villains are gone now. The heroes have become the villain. The vamps have become the heroines. There's no clear villain now. The one who beats up somebody is a villain, not one who misbehaves. Now heroes are doing it. All these men do it. And eve teasing and all, the heroes only do it. Who else does the eve teasing? Anyway, inability to take no from a girl results in what? Throwing acid on her, stabbing her, burning her, rape, glamorization, titillation of old Hindi movies created generations of young men who dare to do that thinking it was normal. They thought it's normal. Gang rapes is not a sport. And when people shoot gang rapes, it's like another film sequence for them because they've seen it in films. And what further impact is a reinforcement of body shaming, appearance anxiety for young women, and men also for that matter, to be that macho, be that, develop those, that kind of body, and self-objectification, people trying to fix themselves with plastic surgery and other drastic means. I broke my nose when I went to the plastic surgeon. I found there were a lot of young girls sitting there, beautiful young girls. They have youth on their side. They look beautiful, but they came for all kinds of job, nose job, lip job, boob job. Hello, what's wrong with you guys? You all are good as you are. But what happens? Then the psychological and psychiatric disorders, body dysmorphic disorder, anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, low self-esteem, depression, acceptance of sexual violence, anxiety, powerlessness, failure to form meaningful relations, sexual dysfunction. Arey to hajar hai. Where will it stop? Now, since cinema puts out stories about human beings and their lives, we need to see what are they putting out and we need to call them out. And that is why we are saying reviews are so important. Reviews are so important. You see what happens, how do people write reviews nowadays? I have a huge complaint about most reviews. They write the synopsis and they think the job is done and they give some star and something and they think it's done, finished, over. But what about pointing out what's missing? That's something they think it's not there, this thing, because it's so easy to write like that. Now, what I want to also do right now is take you on a small journey of how women are portrayed. I mean, we don't have much this thing of, study of other genders, but at least I'm going to talk about how women are portrayed in Hindi cinema, right from the world. So it's a little bit of a walk down the history. So I'm going to show you something while I talk about it. Yeah. Starting from 1913. Are you ready for the walk down memory lane? It may not be part of your memory, but at least we'll know what had happened in over 100 years of cinema. How actually things changed and what it has come to. So we'll do a quick walk through there. I'm going to share something. All right. Can you see this?
Yes.
That was the silent era, the silent movie era, which spoke clouds.
Sorry, come again.
It was the era of the silent movies, now when
That's right.
the action spoke louder.
That's right. Now, Dadasaheb Phalke, called father of Indian cinema, was a pioneer who, after doing a series of shorts and experimentation, made the first silent feature film in India in 1913.
Alamara.
No, listen. It was Raja Harishchandra. 1913 silent film. Yeah. In the early 1900s, acting in films or even in theatre was a taboo for women, so that Phalke used male actors to play the female roles. So all the women you see in the right, and you see where this king is standing with this little boy, all those women are actually men. And they even have a thing in the fountain where they're all bathing, and that's all men. And the success of the film encouraged women to participate. And then the very next year, he was able to cast women in these films. So this is the first part that I wanted to share with you. And it was in 21 to 30, you saw 70% mythologicals, 30% historical and social dramas. And what's interesting is 1927, we had the first woman director, who was Fatma Begum. Now, what were the kind of stories they put out? It's very important because how were they showing women? Now, in the 20s, women had begun to act. And there was this famous story of Satyavan and Savitri. Savitri, goes and brings back a husband who's dead from the god of death. She convinces him with the wisdom and speech. And it was not just love or anything like that. Her duty, her loyalty, her chastity, her commitment to her husband, you see, because our society really cherishes these kind of values. Another famous film was Nal Damayanti, made in collaboration with Italy and directed by an Italian, because a lot of Italian filmmakers came and they were making films with us here. And here also Damayanti faces all odds. And again, it was about sacrifice, rated very high in Indian culture, duty, and commitment. So 27 was Fatma Begum. And German filmmaker was also, he came down, Franz Osten, and he made Savitri. So when you move to the next decade, I'm going decade wise, so we don't have to, now 1931, that's where your Alamara is there. The first talkie, the very first talkie, Alamara, released with 7 songs and lots of dialogues. Franz Osten also followed suit, made many talkie films. Now, Achut Kanya is always talked about, and that is a film with Devika Rani and Ashok Kumar, where this Devika Rani is an untouchable low caste girl, and there's discrimination, and you're able to show that. Now, at the same time, you won't believe it, there was Mary Ann Evans, who became Fearless Nadia, acting in Hunter Wali and films like that, where she, cracked the whip, she climbed and she ran on trains and did all her stunts herself. And she was the masked cloak adventurer, as you can see in the film here. Then 37, imagine in 1937, there was a very, very powerful film made with a very strong woman character. And that was Shantaram's Dunya Na Mane, a young girl married to an old man, and she decides the conjugal rights and she fights for her freedom. And you must see, this is an absolute must-see film, 1937. Dunya Na Mane. Please make sure you take down the names, because normally I would have, if it was a long program, I would have shown you clips, but now I can only tell you some names. And these women, these women had agency. What's important is she had agency, which was denied much later in movies later on. It was gone.
ISKCON is selling all its cows to the butchers. जितना ये करते हैं और
Sorry, I can't know who's saying something. Yeah. All right. Then we come to the next part. 1941 had mythologicals, more social dramas, love stories, class differences, and lot of Western influence coming in. You look at Nargis, lot of films always. And by the end of but even if they had this Western influence, and they had a very strong moral code. And with social films, there were no antagonists or villains to speak of. The issues were what created the conflicts in those days. When this Western influence set in, Nargis played in 2 or 3 films: Rich Spoiled Girl, completely westernized, horse riding, piano songs, ballroom dancing, Western style and outfits. This was the forerunner of many female characters of Bollywood and mainstream cinema who followed suit. Clearly, the bridge had been crossed from sari-clad women with their heads covered to the new woman. But even in this, that old tradition surfaced. Because in one of these films, the wife is suspected of infidelity and she has a hard time explaining her innocent and platonic friendship. So, and you see, they had a lot of roles to play and they had agency. The trend continued. Nargis fights for her love. In Bazi, Gita Bali this is 19, we're coming into the 50s now. If you see on the left side, you see Gita Bali with Devanand. She's supposed to be a club singer, but look how she's dressed. She's not showing her anatomy, nothing. And Devdas, you have Vaijantimala playing Chandramukhi. Again, she transforms. She gives up being a courtesan. There were very, very lots of substantial roles for women. More substantial characters, 51 to 60. And then, of course, was Mother India. She was the ideal Indian woman, a goddess-like moral example. She fights all the hardships. She brings up her son. And finally, when her son errs, she shoots him down. That's another film that really made a difference. Pyasa, extraordinary film, post-independence India. Gulabo, a prostitute with a heart of gold, trying to get the guy she loves, she cares about, the poems published. She deals with it within her circumstances. She still makes her own decisions and has agency, which a lot of characters you don't find in our films in the middle years. Helen in Howrah Bridge, she's fully dressed. Again, a club dancer. You remember the song, Mera Naam Chin Chin Chu? What a lovely song. Yes. And then there were films like Sharda, Sadhana, Dhool Ka Phool, Sujata, in the late women with all women-centric stories. And of course, 60 was also, 51 to 60, I'm saying there was Mughal-e-Azam, in which there was one song, Pyar Kiya To Darna Kya, now sung by the girl. So she says, why be afraid when you're in love? And that was played by Madhubala, song shot in color. Then Chaudhary Ka Chand. Chaudhary Ka Chand, their 2 best friends have fallen in love with the same woman and they decide who she should go to. How disgusting is that? Doesn't she have a choice to choose the man she wants? But girls' feelings were overlooked. Now we move to 60s. Let me take you to the 60s. You can enjoy watching all these clips. Yeah. 60s was Bandini Nutan. Woman prisoner serving a life sentence for murder. Sacrifice, all suffering, selfless sacrifice, yet again at one level weak. And from a prisoner of destiny, she becomes the one who defines her own freedom. Then we had Guide, very important film again. She stands up for what she wants, breaks the norms, gets out. Gumrah there was a woman who was having an extramarital affair, and then she has to face the consequences and deal with it. So, meanwhile, you also had Evening in Paris. You see also what happened in with glamour. With color came glamour. You had Sharmila Tagore in a swimsuit. And everybody was now, because of color, everyone became glamorous. See, there's most of them. All huge hairdos and lots of makeup. And that sort of thing. And until then, there was no special attempt to show the female body as an object of desire, because the women were fully clothed, they wore what they wore, and it didn't matter. They still looked sexy, they still looked desirable, and they still felt wanted. But you see, now we've gone to another level altogether. Now the heroines are being stripped. Yeah. And the other compulsory item almost at this point of time was rape. Every second film had a rape sequence, and it was not shown as something disgusting, something revolting. It was titillating, and there were long, long scenes of rape, very long, drawn out scenes of rape. And I've heard personal stories of how these actresses, female actors, used to have such a hard time dealing with it, because their director would tell the actor, the male actor, to go ahead and do whatever he needed to do, and he wouldn't say cut, and the shot would go on till the man stopped fiddling around and fumbling around and making a mess out of her, actually putting her to misery. Now, Smita Patil was a very close friend of mine. I'll share you. When she did that song Rapata Rapata Jai in the Rain with Amitabh Bachchan, she came home and she cried. She was so unhappy. She was so upset with herself for having done that song. It's not easy doing these kind of things. It's humiliating to for a lot of people. For some, may not be for everyone. But what is your intention behind showing that is what's important. I'll come to that when we talk of views. It's not that we don't show nudes at all. Yeah, by all means, you can show nudes, you can show sex, you can show eroticism, you can show anything you want. But what is your context? I think that's what you must look beyond what is said and look at the unsaid. All right. Then we move to the next decade, 71 to 80, and that was where the parallel cinema came into existence much more. There was Bhumika, there was Anubhav, and there was Sholay. Along with that, also my first film, Shak, where a woman decides whether she wants to live with this man or not. She cannot live with the man. If she finds out her husband is a murderer, she cannot be with him. She has to deal with it. It's not easy to deal with. And then there was, look at now what has happened to Helen. From Caravan she did, and then she went into Sholay. See, she was fully covered in Mera Naam Chinchichu, and now she comes to Sholay, and she had to wear something like that. So it was going all out. So this was also the time where parallel and middle cinema grew. But by the time what happened was 80s, it was complete change. In the 80s, it was the angry young man, and the women became just props. I'll show you some hypersexualization and less women-centric films and weak women roles. Look at this now. Every heroine had to do an item number like this. No one was spared. Everyone did it. Whether they liked it or not, they wanted to be in the business, they wanted to be stars, they did the work. There were also rain songs at this point. That takes us to 91 and 2000. Lots of rain songs. Why? It increases the erotica. I'm sure many of you would have seen this. Now I'm coming to 2001. Now here is a list of 50 best films. According to a study, there's these 50 films in that decade were the best films. Munna Bhai, Ganga Jal, वैसे भी होता है, रंग दे बसंती, घोसला का घोसला, तारे जमीन पर, 140 चक दे India, Legend of Bhagat Singh. All these ones are supposed to be the best 50 films from 2001 to 2010, but there were hardly any women centric stories or strong women characters. Very, very limited. I was looking, isme tha kya, isme tha kya, usme tha kya. This was what up to 2010, this was how the situation was. And then you come to 2011 is very different. Something is happening here. In the last 12 years, there were about 88 films which were women-centric, according to a study. More substantial role, but still getting there. Dirty Picture, Tanuvets Manu, No One Killed Jessica, Satkun Maaf, Neerja, Dear Zindagi, Neel Batte Sanata, One Night Stand, then Naam Shabana, Tumhari Filori, Begum Jaan, Secret Superstar, Dangerous Ish, Calendar Girls, Razi, With the Wedding, Hichki, Manikarnika, Kerala Story, Ghumar, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, and so on. Now, this was, sorry, take this off. So this was a very, very quick rush through the thing. So what happened? Something has now changed after 2011. Things began to change because there were no in 80s and 90s is the worst period of Hindi cinema. Because there was nothing of new worth. They was just trying to, you see, if one film succeeded, they would make sure the other films were like that. It was very, very difficult time for women. And women's issues were not taken seriously enough, tackled with a lot of lack of sensitivity. And in real life, same thing happening. A lot of male filmmakers select women's themes or hero-oriented subject, but they're not able to do justice, as Sharda was saying, because whatever the real stuff comes out, films are very transparent. It's a very transparent medium. You may show something, and yet what you really believe you're misogynistic, or if you are discriminating in your personal life, it will show somewhere in the way you shoot your films. So it's not about showing some women's issues, but really understanding women and not stereotyping them. You know, also having more characters for women. And if the women are there, giving them more to do. Like if you're showing the cops, how many women cops do? Nowadays, we see a lot of women cops on television, especially OTT platform has done a lot actually to expand this conversation. But it still is not really, a lot of things get missed out. So if you're writing reviews, then that's where you need to look at what am I missing out here? All right, I want people to now respond to what you've seen and heard.
Madam, I would like to add here, if you meet the real women cops in life, if you go to a police station and you meet a women cop, she is so docile, she is so meek, you know, she herself is scared. So I just tell her, you being a police officer, if you are scared, how are you going to, you know, take care of the women?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right, absolutely. Only in films you see them, the women cops. Otherwise, there are. It's not that we don't have very great officers, but yet, and the films before, like 2010, like 2003, there was a film called Mathrubhumi. They're showing stuff. But you see, there are a lot of films like 2005, the Omkara, Dabang, all these films didn't do much for men. Because things are shown, stereotypes are shown, and the stereotypes get perpetuated. And that's the sad part when cinema keeps repeating the same stuff without making a showing, you know, breaking something. You have to keep breaking those things, those barriers, and an understanding of that so people become aware. Right? Anybody else?
I think we need more women filmmakers now.
That's not also the solution. We definitely we need women filmmakers because they are barely 10%. And even camera persons and recordists are also less. Writers, there are more writers, a few more editors, 20%, producers also more. But you see, the thing is, there are women filmmakers also who actually make films like men with that male perspective. And that becomes a problem because, yes, Astitwa, somebody mentioned, and Bandini. So Chaudhary, yeah, there are a lot of films where people are pointing out something, but you must also learn to see what is not said. Is very important. If you're writing reviews, see what gets communicated. I don't know how many of you are going to be writing reviews here, but it's very, very important. So what did you understand from this conversation that we had? You see, subtly, a lot of messages are given subtly. Woman's place is shown very subtly. You know, it's like when you're showing rape, for example, how are you going to show? Would you hold someone to account if they made it titillating, or would you not? Simple.
Self-defense has to be taught.
Yeah.
That is
So,
what, yeah.
or if you have to show violence. So violence is very entertaining, yeah. But how are you going to show the violence? What is the context? It's very important. We come to that when we talk of writing reviews. Yeah.
I think although there is a lot of women-centric movies these days, there's still a lot of songs that are very demeaning towards women. I think films have perpetuated a lot of the sense of ladki ek baar na bole to bar piche pado, and then
That's
she
right.
say yes. And in fact, like movies like even Kal Ho Na Ho, right? Which was, I mean, it's loved by everybody. It's such a sweet movie, but he has, I mean, Shah Rukh Khan says something on the lines of "Chhe din ladki in," "Hasi to fasi," things like that. These are terms that have been perpetuated a lot in the film.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
A lot of people will continue to behave like this because this is how they see how to communicate with women. Unfortunately, there is no representation, or there's not enough understanding among different genders on how we speak to each
You see,
other.
conversation between a girl and a boy is pretty dead now. You hardly see. They are in the act straight off. I mean, the romance is dead according to me in cinema. Trying to understand man, woman, conversation. प्यार तो होने दो. No, प्यार के लिए time नहीं है. Just do the sex. I haven't seen a nice romantic love story in a very long time. And I watch a lot of OTT and movies, other movies. I haven't seen a good romance in a very long time. And every second thing on OTT has a lot of sex.
Violence and sex.
I'd like to add that there's a pressing need for intimacy coordinators on set so that everyone on set feels safe and comfortable to participate in such scenes.
Yes. That's right. And because it was put there, you see, if it didn't come naturally. Now, in my films, I mean, I've never stopped from showing a love scene which may go into sex, though it was not very, not like the things they show today. But then they would say, "Ki aap batao na, karke dikhao na." So as a director, I would get onto the thing and show how to do the scene, because they said they were very uncomfortable. Now, because they're doing all this bang, bang, wham, wham, all this stuff, they need a coordinator. That's very unfortunate. Because why is a love scene or sex scene different from any other scene? I mean, after all, if you're the director of the film, you should know exactly what's going on and how much is going on and what you want to do. But people feel comfortable because somebody is telling them what to do. And I have shown Hema Malini how to be with Vinod Khanna, do this thing with Vinod Khanna, do this thing with Hema Malini, do this with someone else. So you have to show it. I mean, what is the big deal? If you're making a film, you're making a film. Just like I could run up the, Tarafa if I have to. If I have to show a love scene, I have to show a love scene. I mean, I have to show a dialogue. How, ma'am, please tell us, how do you want us to say it? Okay, I'll tell you how I want you to say it. It's the same thing. Or where do you keep your hand when your head is aching? You keep it here or you keep it here, or what do you want to do? I mean, it's a big, after all, if you're an actor, you're an actor. I mean, why make such a big deal out of it? So even in Firebrand, I mean, we didn't have a special person, and I don't believe in having these people coming. But see, this is what they've done to play safe. You call the dance directors, he will do the dance. He will have the action master, he will come and action director, he will do the action. Now you have a love director, sex director, you have them, they'll come and do the scene. What are you doing? Hello? Are you the director of the film? Do you have a say in it? So Yeah. So, and the unfortunate part is the way, and now it has become almost compulsory. In every second film, you see an LGBTQIA plus person.
Right.
Now, have they done enough homework? Have they understood what it means to be whatever they are showing? No, they're still showing the same old, most of the time, they're still showing the same old stuff. Yeah. That's right.
Also, I think there's a very honest reality is that it is a very 100% equity-driven business. So,
Yeah.
anybody who want to put their money in also used to try what previously worked and then they, put it because there's no buffer for that space. If your film tank, even at OTT or any place, there's no money, you get it. So I think that's also the risk. The producer also have it. I think as a writing perspective, I think what I learned from a lot of mistakes I made in 2 years while writing the same story, I'm still in a process. I think you have to write a story from a human perspective and give them a human value, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman. And I think once we disassociate ourselves from the very primary sex or a gender and tell the story from more a human level and give them that view, and maybe they are in a particular situation. Now it's a man or a woman. I think if we write something from a human perspective itself, disassociate
absolutely, because that
from any kind of, and that I think brings some more neutrality and because someday I also feel like many female driven films which are now being pitched on social media or something like that, they just simply go to like there's a movies coming, thank you for coming, something it's just about female organs, that's what they're pitching. But then we also forget that we are live in a country where the education is not even given, and then you're making some too bold film. We just forget to create that kind of bridge from education to job to financial literacy, and then you start coming to more above top. I don't know, I just believe, I think we need to start begin with writing
I
a human
agree with
character.
you. Shall I absolutely agree with you? Because when it becomes human, it becomes about human beings. The emotion comes in, and people can engage with you, and it resonates with people. But you see, they have a formula. Mostly it's Bollywood. They have a formula. There has to be sex, there has to be violence, and there has to be glamour, and there has to be this, that, and the other, and comedy, and all. And then, but you putting that's why they were called masala films. There is hardly any story. There is no character arc. The characters are not going anywhere. And women's characters are definitely not going anywhere because women have become props. But as I said, in the last 10, 12 years, at least more films are given and women have getting more substantial roles. But the point is, what are they doing in those films? Again, needs to be examined. And who can call them out? You can call them out because you are writing about them. Yeah.
Ma'am, I want to know one thing.
Yes,
that,
Jawan and Pathan, yes, somebody is saying, do they portray women well? I don't think so. Now, whatever you're doing, you don't have to be scantily dressed. When you need to be scantily dressed, by all means, of course, do. We'll cheer you, but why do you want to be scantily dressed all the time? Every moment you're on the screen, every frame, why do you have to be scantily dressed? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, ma'am, I want to add something that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that it's a pressure from corporate world who is putting a lot of money in these types of films, and it's a premeditated sense that our film should go in 100 crore clubs or 300 crore clubs or 1,000 crore clubs. So, do you think that corporate is spoiling our films? And
no, you can't blame them. See, I'll tell you, there are two ways of looking at a film, at any film,
Yes,
this thing,
yes.
or maybe three ways. One is definitely business. For these people, it's business. So, अगर किसी को नंगा दिखाना है तो नंगा दिखाओ, हिजड़ा दिखाना है तो हिजड़ा दिखाओ, जो दिखाना है दिखाओ. Whatever sells, they will show in the most ugly manner, most wrong manner, or whatever manner you want to show pathetically. They will show that because they want the box office to rock. That is their thing, and they have no compunction, no this thing. And there are filmmakers who say, we are making films, we are making commercial films. We are not social workers. It's not our problem. Hello. All right, that's your view. Then there are people who are filmmakers who are making films. They want to make more films. They're artistically oriented. They're creative people.
I called you number one because I wanted to know whether you are in touch with Vivek and do you have.
Sorry, Karuna, you're saying something? Did you say something?
No, I think she just got unmuted and you can go ahead.
Okay, I heard her say something about, yeah. So the point is, who is making the film and for whom? But you know what? We make like 2,000 films. You know what happens? One film succeeds and there are 20 films being made on the same pattern. Now, those 19 films do not work. People don't realize most of the films are flopping. And they end up having done very badly in the OTT, or it takes years to recover the money. If they're independent producers, now they're very few, but it takes years to recover the money they've lost. Now, instead of trying to emulate somebody else's formula, something that worked for them, make your own thing, believe in your story, the good thing earlier, before the studios came in, etc. And before the 80s and 90s, people were independent producers. They were passionate about the film they were making, even producers. मेरे को ये picture बनानी है. और डायरेक्टर को फुल फ्रीडम देंगे, यार डायरेक्टर तू बना, आई वांट दिस, ये मेरे को दिखना चाहिए, आई वांट दिस, मेक इट, आई गिव यू व्हाटएवर यू नीड. सो दैट्स गॉन. नाउ टुडे एवरीबडी इज थिंकिंग अबाउट कितना करोड़ का बिजनेस करेगा, उसमें क्या क्या मसाला है.
That's exactly I wanted to say.
Yeah, but that is but you see, by you have to find your own formula. By copying any formula, you're not going to be successful. You know, one Jawan will work, but a second Jawan will not work. A second Jawan will be a copy of the first Jawan, which will be a flop. And you see, these films which make these hundreds of crores, they're riding on star power also. They're riding a lot on star power. You take away the star power, the films are quite worthless. You take away the stars, and you'll see, ye kya, isme story kidhar hai? Characters kidhar hai? So this is the funny part. Anyway, coming to the reviews, let's look at the reviewing part because we're running out of time. And what I wanted to do was, I want to share with you some reviews that people have written. So this was, how do you write reviews? So let's look at somebody looking at it from a gender perspective. I'm going to, you have it, right? Yeah. Now, Saibal Chatterjee is a very well-known person, film critic, and I asked him to send me some stuff so that I could share with you. And he made this little note for me and he sent me this. So Saibal says, it is often claimed these days that Indian cinema has turned gender sensitive and has learned to give women the space that they deserve on and off screen. But is that true? Barring honorable exceptions, Hindi films today seem to suggest that a liberated woman is somebody who does what the men do. Smoke, drink, swear, resort to violence, and have sex, and only sex on her mind. That, needless to say, is setting the bar way too low. Rounded, genuinely assertive, and meaningfully empowered women are still a rarity in Hindi cinema. So when are you going to write like this, so understand and put things out? Because you have to say it. Somebody has to say it. Yeah. Now he's written about Kabir Singh. No recent Hindi film glorifies toxic masculinity quite as brazenly as Kabir Singh. The bloated, overlong love story lends a veneer of normality to acts of dreadful delinquency and sickening misogyny. The doctor, played by Shahid Kapoor, endangers the life of a patient every time he picks up a scalpel to perform surgery. Already dealing with serious anger management issues, he goes completely over the edge and turns into a womanizer, an alcoholic, and a drug addict when the sick girl, Kiara, he thinks he owns, marries another man under pressure from her Orthodox family. Now, Kabir, thwarted in love, feels that muscle flexing and loathsome behavior is birthright. The girl, on the other hand, a mute spectator, struts around the campus telling him that she's his girl. She has no agency of her own. Now, you see, there are a lot of men who will emulate Kabir. Why would they not? Because you too tend to do that. And the women think, being like this girl, Kiara's character, they have to be like that. That's getting such wrong examples. Now, Gulab Gang. Rajo and her gang of girls, inmates of an ashram cum weaving center, rescue a victim of domestic violence, fight an abusive husband, terrorize a corrupt and inept collector, and mete out exemplary punishment to a political henchman and his rapist dance. So the women are out there giving it. Rajo also takes on a vicious woman politician who, among other things, robs the poor of their food grains, peddles spurious liquor in the area, and indulges in electoral malpractices. What is difficult to digest in Gulab Gang is a suggestion that we must necessarily mimic men and turn into mindless hoodlums to wage war on issues facing them. Lack of education avenues, abuse at home, and sexual violence, all of which are alluded to in the film. So, in spite of showing that, in spite of having Madhuri Dixit and Juhi Chawla and Tanishta and all this, they could not pull it off. This is how it's going to be. Yeah. Right. Now, how many of you have seen The Great Indian Kitchen? I'm sure everyone must have seen. Now, there are two things on The Great Indian Kitchen. It addresses the gender issue by bringing to the narrative the oppressive patriarchal value within communities, relationships, and institutions. In the film, the girl literally breaks out of her arranged marriage into the kitchen to assert her freedom. From time of the play that of the film, a lot of things have happened in Malayali society and in the outside world. Joint families are broken up into nuclear ones. Women have begun to pursue education, professional careers. Young men have migrated and they have created a new and aspiring middle class. New media gadgets have transformed the tone and tenor of social and personal lives. But despite all this, the role of women inside the house remains unchanged. Their unpaid slavery and endless drudgery continues unabated, which the film portrays chillingly and intimately. Did you think so? How many people thought so? He didn't show anything different. He showed the normal stuff that was going on. The responses to the film in the social media forums are a candid reflection of the state of gender affairs, while women from all walks of life celebrate the film for finally revealing the silent brutality of patriarchal family values. Most men have resorted to apologetic and confessional modes. Okay, please show me the next one. Now, this is a detailed one. Anna Vetikart for first post. A startling, scathing, stunning takedown of patriarchy and its eternal sidekick religion. Now, this is what Arvinda was talking about. She chops and slices and dices and grinds. She cooks and washes and wipes and sweeps and swabs. Meanwhile, he does yoga before breakfast in office. Another part of the house, the father-in-law waits for the woman of the house to put toothpaste on his toothbrush and bring it to him while he sits relaxing reading the newspaper on the porch. As the men exercise their bodies and minds, she picks up the trail of garbage they leave in their waste. She takes out the trash. She keeps out the holy lamb. She's the first to wake up and the last to bed, there to be raped by whom she's legally and socially bound. And that is all the film is showing, the regular, normal routine of a simple middle-class household. He's not shown anything out of the blue. Everyday story, it's like the fly on the wall is watching what's going on. Writer-director Joe Baby's film captures an under-discussed horrific reality with astonishing accuracy by merely replicating on screen what happens in millions of Indian households. A wife leaving a husband's shoes out for him to step into it as he leaves the house. A man cooking one meal and leaving a mess behind for the women to clean up, lauding himself for having given the women a break. These are not fictional scenes in a film. They are snapshots from homes we inhabit or have visited, where women's hard labor is romanticized. Oh, she's a Devi like, oh, she's like that one. Oh, she's a great, whatever, she's like unlimited capacity for love and sacrifice in a preemptive bid to demonize women who break free. Husband is not a bad man. He's not an overtly repulsive fellow, but a seemingly different every man with nice guy demeanor. But his attitudes are regressive. They stress the fact that villains are usually the chap next door. Among many memorable elements, The Great Indian Kitchen is that moment when a woman weaponizes a man's conviction that menstruation makes her impure. Take that for misogyny. Now, here's another one. Now, this is by Bharti Pradhan. She's written it to like a letter to the writer of the film. Dear Kanika Dhillon, I must disappointingly state that while your writing is so distracted with strewing feminist statements all over the place, you don't seem to understand its very concept. Do you really think a woman's emancipation is totally about having premarital and extramarital sex? Is that what it is? One thought the unconventionality had freshness in some of your earlier writing. But now that I think about it, whether it's Rumi of Manmarzia or Rani of Hasin Dilruba, both played by Tapsi Pannu, the trailers established a feminist with badass lines about condoms or not making fritters. Supposed to be humorous cultural shockers, the wit doesn't extend to any other piece of dialogue. Only here. In the film itself, beyond the young wife making love to either an ex-boyfriend, as she did in Marmarzia, or to a new sexual attraction like a husband's cousin in Hasin Dilruba, why are heroines so singularly empty-headed with no substance in them? Good question. Unless you truly believe that's what sums up the women of small towns like Jwalapur. Morning after morning, Rani wakes up to step out of bedroom in sexy, colorful saris after one more night of demoralizing her perfectly decent husband, Dishu. And good guys end up looking like wimps. What are you doing? Sure, don't make pakodas, MSME in Hindi literature, and don't lend a helping hand to your mother-in-law. That's okay. But how is a wife with a vacuum in her head, a motor in her mouth, and no cerebral occupation a symbol of emancipation? Looking gorgeous, having blunt conversations about sex, being insensitive to a husband and bedding his hairy cousin is not a definition of feminism. In fact, it's rather contradictory that the only way Rani reacts to a man she's attracted to is by going into the kitchen to knead tons of dough and make tea and mutton curry for him. Would you agree with me on this? How many really agree with this? How many of you seen this Hasin Dilruba? If you are not aware of it, then wake up. She's saying it as is. All right, let's see another one. How many more do we have?
We have two more.
Two more. All right, let's look at Thappad. I think I've chose these films because most of you have seen these films, I think. The first scene of the movie becomes an introduction of a female character named Swati asking the very fundamental question about the need for marriage itself. The dialogue, why do we have to get married? Questions the very need for the existence of this institution called marriage in the larger realm of society. If two people want to be together, why can't they just be somebody with being the wife and somebody the husband? Another scene is about introducing another female character in the movie named Shivani, whose daughter is telling her that she needs to find a good man in order to get settled in life. Now, this business of getting settled is another one more thing that is against, this scene calls for the attention to the ideology that is so deeply embedded in socialization that even a child believes that a woman is not settled in life unless she has a man in her life, even if she feels content with her life being a successful, independent professional and being a mother. Everybody, that's why people go after girls. Arey, abhi, you're 20, 21, 22, shadi nahi hua, shadi karo. What for? She'll do it when she wants to. Arey, fir shadi hua to bachcha kab aayega, bachcha kab aayega, bachcha kab aayega. This goes on. Pushing them back into those roles, into that gender stereotype. It shows how motherhood is not an individual act, but involves family structures and norms around it. It also calls for attention to closely unpack the hierarchy of agency over a child in a family. Who gets to make the major decisions for a child? Which school would they go to? What subjects would they study in school? What is the age as you should get married, especially if it's a girl child in the Indian context? The women in the film are represented through different social locations and represent the plurality of womanhood. For all these women, being a woman holds different definitions of personal and public. They engage differently with the reality of life and hold different spaces in the larger institution of the family. These differences allow them to have different agencies of choice and resistance. Yes, next one. Bombay becomes, under the guise of empowering women, show them as vulnerable, weak, and eternally preyed upon. Poor things, victim card nikal ke baith jao. That's the whole thrust of Alankrita's show. Ambitious bankers, Rani Singh, Fatima Warsi, Aisha Agarwal, put career over all else, and according to the show, infidelity comes with the territory. Because women who are career-driven must drink, smoke, and cheat on their partners. ये कौन सा नया पाठ पढ़ा रहे हो? Give us graphic sex while you're at it. A gay scene or two is a must. Alankrita gives it with alacrity. So Pooja Bhatt with Rahul Bose Steam it up in the hotel room, even steal a long smooch heartbeats away from the husband and his wife. Husband Naushad has his own moments where he jerks off, wearing his wife's lacy sari. Shahana Goswami has sex in a tub on the bed wherever her Firang lover makes her feel like a woman. While her husband, her junior in the bank, waits for her at home thinking she's busy at work, disrupt her plans. Doesn't disrupt her and plans a surrogate baby, an idea mooted by her, by the way. Plabita won't think twice before making out with an ex-boyfriend crashing into his house as she's forever roofless, even as his girlfriend is sleeping in the next room. She'll walk unannounced into Jat singer Chitra's apartment, make herself comfortable like it's her rights, smooch heavily, have gay sex, move in and out of colleague Ron's house, smooch and bed with him when she wants to. By the way, I lost track of how many people Aisha smooched or had sex with. But hey, shed a tear, she's a victim, no? While rural shows like Panchayat have truly had feisty of women, Bombay Begums is a signal that's time to stop playing the victim card under that empowerment label. So we cannot even defend such films and defend these women. And we are talking about women filmmakers. Anybody wants to say anything about this? When are you going to write like this? And point out, call out. I want some reactions. Actually, I have one last thing. Oh my God, it's almost 5 o'clock. Can we extend by 15 minutes? Would that work? Please?
Yes.
Because I want to put out what I'm suggesting. I mean, I'm also recommending something. And after that, we can have a discussion. That's better, I think, once and for all. Let me put out something. Let me put out some suggestions I have. Okay.
Aruna, please feel free to extend. There's no issue. I think everybody's enjoying the session.
They are not very quiet actually, but I think they're absorbing it because you know what, when there's something such kind of material coming your way, you just want to be quiet and take it in. Maybe that's also a possibility. I don't know, but I will anyway. I'll now can you give me the screen sharing? Pooja?
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Yeah, now it's there. Okay, now this is something that I'm saying, writing reviews. I think this is very important. Look for where the writer and or director is coming from. There's nothing wrong with showing a sex scene. There's nothing wrong showing nudity. There's nothing wrong showing anything. What is the context? If there is domestic violence, is it about the violence? The violence is entertaining. Today, films are showing more and more brutality and violence than ever before. It's also an ingredient for box office success. If your story or script needs to show rape, how are you going to picturize it, edit it? Is it going to be titillating like in a lot of Indian films, or disgusting and revolting? If a man, woman, or child is in trouble, are you going to rely on a man always to be the savior and pander to the hero stereotype while the woman watches helplessly? Or are you going to let her also pick up the sick and do something about it? Another thing, look for the stereotype in its various forms. Begin to recognize it from real life in your own home. Start with the closest in your own house. You will find when your father says something to your mother says something to the maid, or somebody says something to somebody else, or your sister says to you, or you say to your sister, just begin to recognize. If you can do it by observing people around you from your own life, or from your own life, you'll be able to recognize it in the films you see. How the characters look, how they dress, how they behave in terms of social interactions and their body language. How do they think? What do they think? What actions do they take, and how do they take them? Every little bit is saying something. There's nothing that goes amiss. Even a little spot somewhere says something. There's nothing that is not noticed or not there. Now, one more thing, the hypersexualization of women, used as another box office ingredient, hemlines going up, cleavages coming down, display of anatomy, whole and in parts, body raunchy lyrics demeaning to women. Call them out. Display of hyper masculinity, toxic masculinity as a way of being for men of boys. If you see that, talk about it. How do the characters, now this is very important. We think, oh, but like everybody. No, but how do characters react to challenges, to emotions like anger, tragedy, pain, trauma? Are you going that old, are you going to blaze a trail and find ways how people can be, rather than how you want to see them according to your stereotype? Do they have a philosophy? What are their beliefs? Is there a stereotype there also? Last but not the least, the marginal victims of patriarchy and male domination, do they have any agency, even the teeny tiny slightest bit, to bring some change in something that does not work in their life? This is very critical, because if they remain where they are, they will have no character arc. They will never grow and transform in the film. And there are things that are an absolute no, like gang rape shown as sport that boys and men can enjoy. This is what I have to say. After like being 54 years in the film industry, seeing it, experiencing it, and engaging in these conversations, now the field is open for everyone. You can ask questions, you can react, you can say whatever.
Yeah, I request everyone to please open up. You have been very attentive participants. Now share your views and how you felt listening to Aruna, your own personal experiences. So please do it. Please open up and start sharing.
May I speak?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, somebody is looking at trying to be film critic.
Should I, when we talk about gender discrimination, it is a woman who is the one who is enforcing it right from the childhood. Even a mother-in-law tries to suppress the daughter-in-law. I have seen it personally in my family, where the mother-in-law will sit in one place and she will order the daughter-in-law around, get my pajama, get my medicine, and while the granddaughter is watching it all.
Absolutely. If patriarchy has been supported by women, if it hadn't been supported by women, it would be long dead. Because women have played second fiddle and they've accepted it as a norm. You see, patriarchy, male domination, women have taken it on. And now they're pushing everybody. You see what the mother-in-law does. She does the same thing. She will also dominate and push her into playing the same defeatist, submissive, subservient role. So
and
now
the granddaughter is watching. The granddaughter is watching.
That is why, as I said, the child picks up from what the child sees rather than what you tell the child. You see, this is a very important thing. And the child also is seeing movies. The child is seeing at home. So when we talk of what you're picking up, and that is why also it's very important to be able to sort out and understand what is chalk and what is cheese, to separate the stuff out and see what is, especially now, everybody is making, other gender films. Then you have to be even more careful.
More careful.
You have to be more careful. Men and women we've had for a long time. But now that people are now actually coming out, then, it's going to make them feel like running back in again into their holes if you don't watch out. That'd be a very sad thing. Because they say, why did I come out? Aisa hoga na?
Bilkul. Earlier we used to talk only about gays. Now it is LGBT, then LGBT.
And 107, that's what I found. There were 107 or something like that. And now just say everyone, it'd be all inclusive. So let everyone have their own identity, it's fine.
See, but if we are coming to LGBTQI, so we are coming to the end of the population. End of humanity.
Why would you say that?
Yeah,
that's really stupid thing to say, Arvinder. Sorry, I'm butting in right now. How can you just say that? End of humanity. What does it mean even?
See, when a two gays get married, when two lesbians get married, can they reproduce?
But everybody is not doing that. Hello. Everybody is not doing that.
Arvinder, you can produce 20 children and that's enough. I can be gay and I can not produce more children. That's fine. We are a minority still. We are 10% of the population. We don't need to reproduce. You people can do it 20,000 times more than us. Sorry, I'm just butting it up.
No, that's fine. Really, no, that's fine.
Somebody like Arvinder, just what she said pisses me off completely. I'm sorry.
I know.
After all this lecture, Aruna, what is she taking back on this?
I know, I feel so.
Coming 10 years or 20 years, I'm talking about the long term.
No, but why are you bothered? Live your life now, include them in your life right now, make the space life now, and let whatever is to happen, happen. The world, we are not gods. We don't want to play God either. Let the society evolve the way it's society. But what are we going to make life now for ourselves and for our children is what we have to be worried about. What is my life today? Am I inclusive? Do I want to take everyone along? And how is life going to look? And what are my children or my whatever children around me learning? Are we giving them any kind of a life? We are life, this kind of discrimination, it's going to end up in very highly discriminated society that, so just, what's the problem? I mean, you have so many, nature is, the biggest example. There are millions of plants out there. Now, if all the small trees there, वो big tree की वजह से हम कुछ नहीं कर सकता, I cannot survive. Everybody is surviving in their own way. There are millions of plants. There's so much diversity. So why can't we have diversity in human beings? Some will reproduce. There are some, some plants, they multiply, but so many spreads like, and some only germinate very slowly. Once in so many years, one thing will blossom. Let it be.
Yeah, that is the bamboo tree which will blossom after 5 years.
Yeah, so somebody is a bamboo, somebody is not even a bamboo. That's okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you. I think Yuvraj has his hand up. He wants to say something. So let's
please speak
move
up.
on.
Yeah. See, the thing at the bottom line of these kind of discussions is we have to be sensitive to everyone. And that's the bottom line, understand each other's. Then when we understand each other, we make space for each other. And cinema is putting out a lot of stuff that is not palatable at all. And that's where we have to put out, that's where what we want to speak about. Yeah. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Yuvraj.
Yeah, so I think what you pointed out was that we really need to pay hard attention to what we are looking at and to put in effort to what we how we write and how we review things. And it really makes me want to write with more thought put into what I'm writing and what I'm watching. And especially when I laud something for what it is, or especially, yeah. So I think I'm taking something from this session. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Anyone else?
There was
go ahead. Sridhar wants to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Sridhar.
So basically, how do you sensitize I think, should we start with the scriptwriters or the filmmakers or the actors? Who do we start with by sensitizing so that like more representation is there about all the genders?
I think, writers definitely, Sridhar, I would say writers definitely. Then also producers and directors. Because it's very important, because a man puts the money there. If it is about a certain kind of, films made about certain kind of people, any kind of people, I'm just saying anybody, he's the one who puts the money. And finally, because money speaks loudest, he is going to call the shots eventually, what he wants and what he doesn't want. So that's one, definitely those guys. But director is the one who's actually making it happen. So the writer and director are the first people we need to sensitize. Because see, when this, for example, this woman filmmaker that Bharti was referring to, she's not making films with any sensitivity. Women are not like that. It doesn't mean just because if I'm a successful professional that I smoke, drink, and sleep around. That's not the model. I mean, there may be a woman who does that. There may be a character who does that. But the way you paint with such broad strokes, it looks like that goes with that, kind of character. So it can be different. So this sensitization is very critical. If we don't get it, then we don't get it. Because I had problems even with a film called Lipstick Under My Burqa. Lot of women had huge problems with this. And then don't claim it to be a feminist film or whatever film or empowering women. It was not empowering women at all. And there is also a person like Farah Khan, for example. She makes like all Bollywood men make movies, and she doesn't have any qualms, and she makes what she makes, and she does. It's okay, but she's not claiming anything. She's not claiming anything. She's making another Bollywood film, which will hopefully will make 100, 200, 300 crores, and she's got a star. And I have no issues with that. But when you want to show it as a feminist film, and you're saying you're for women and empowering women, it's not empowering at all. In that film, there are 4 women who are at the end of their life and they're sitting in the garage and smoking. Is that your emancipation? Where are we going?
There's another.
So,
Sorry,
what
did
we
you have a
should do?
follow-up?
I mean, these kind of programs should be done. These kind of programs are very important to open up people's mind where discussions happen, and we should have live sessions. I mean, I think, Sridhar, next time in Kashish, let's have more sessions, open up a little more and have sessions like this, because it's very important to sensitize people and sensitize the creators who are putting
Totally.
out
I mean, I like the survey you did. It's so telling of the inequalities per se, the survey which you did in the quiz you just did, that was a brilliant quiz per se. Yeah. And also like you took us through the entire history of Indian cinema, how women were portrayed. That was really brilliant. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Actually, it's a 2-day program, portrayal of women in Indian cinema, but I just condensed, I took off all the clips and I sat for 2 nights and made it into a PPT presentation with just photographs so that at least we could look at some you can touch base something and, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for actually speaking up, because it's very important. No, because everyone's voice must be heard. And Sridhar is a great stand for this gender diversity. All right, who else? Yeah.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Renuka, you are.
Yes. I think I'm just agreeing more to what you just pointed out about the liberation and how it's portrayed. So I just want to add that I think films like Ajji and Sherni, they are showing powerful women with like they're standing up for themselves in the right manner. I'm not saying that smoking or drinking or sleeping around with people is not okay, but it's your choice. But at the same time, when we talk about liberation and gender equality, it's not always about that. So I think we can, I think critics or writers can promote films like Ajji and Shani more, where women are playing a very vital and important and powerful role.
Yeah, because you see, the thing is, for example, you're right. And, we can have more women characters or women, whatever characters we have, give them some lines to speak. You see, if you look at the Gina Davis studies, you find that less than 1/3 roles. On top of that, they're not speaking, they're not given speaking roles. So, like, when Firebrand, I had to have 3 judges in my film. And, I said, no, I want at least 1 woman judge out of the 3. So we're 2 male judges and 1 woman judge. So we have to find spaces like that where women can also participate and give them something to speak, something to do, because they cannot be invisible any longer. 50%, almost 50%. And of course, what can I say about the other genders? Because they were not in existence. Now they are come into existence, but they've come into existence in such a way, in a very stereotyped way, unfortunately. And I think that's where we also need to break through. See, by looking at someone, I shouldn't be able to judge that person from their sexual orientation. Accept them as human beings. Open your heart to them. Let them be whoever they are and let them do whatever they do. No. Now, take for example, Arvind, my son doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to have children. So he's also not good. He's not gay or he's not anything. He just doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to have children. Bas, finished. This is the end of the khandan. He doesn't want any khandan. What is such a great khandan that we have to forward it? We all live our lives, do our bit and go. So it's okay.
May I say something here, Aruna?
Yeah, say. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, the argument which was put forward earlier that, the LGBTQI and others are end of humanity. It's a very strong argument put out by those who are anti, diversity. And it is consumed without really understanding the dynamic, because there are so many people, the so-called cisgenders and others who don't have children, right? And there are so many who have so many children. And considering the percentage of the people who are who fall in the category of transgender or homosexual persons, it is I mean, it is so far fetched to imagine that they will be responsible for the disappearance of mankind or humankind. So this is something which is often promoted or put as a reason for not promoting gay marriages, etc. So it's important to sort of disabuse people of this particular thinking based on facts and figures, because it's not that it is.
See, the thing is, Sharda, basically, it's, all this comes from two things. One is either lack of awareness or some prejudice. Now, if it's lack of awareness, we can sensitize, and if it's prejudice, it can be taken away by, by interaction, by engagement. It can be taken away by, because this is something to be done. And
it has to be done. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful lobby which actually promotes this kind of a thing through various means, and there is a big responsibility on us to sensitively,
But
highlight.
I don't want, but at the same time, don't want to have the conversation us and them, and I don't want to point a finger at Arvinder either, because you see, this is something, and thankfully she spoke out. If she hadn't spoken out, we didn't know that there is also such a thought or such a point of view. So thank you, Arvinder, for bringing it out, because it allows us to deal with those kind of questions that others may have, because we want to engage with, whether wherever it came from, I'm not worried about that, but we definitely want to engage and understand, because when you said that you were brought up, what you shared with us was also very important. Even men and women were not face to face. So you can imagine how deep this conversation about other genders is. I know how it was in those times, and, where people actually shut off. Even men and women were not supposed to communicate directly to each other. So given that background, I'm completely with you. I understand what you're saying. And I definitely would want you to look at this conversation and see how you can actually, look at it in a different way.
Since people are sort of moving out already, I just wanted to share the feedback form in the chat. We'll just put it on the chat. Please look at it. Please fill it up so that we can keep your feedback in mind next time onwards. Does anybody have any other final statements?
Yeah, Graina, please send me the feedback also, whatever they're filling up. So I'd also like to know what are they dealing with and what is the whole thing. Not really about the program so much as what are their issues, if there are any issues they're dealing with, or what they want addressed or something like that.
Yeah. No, we'll share the form summary with you.
Yes, please do that.
So shall we close now, Pooja?
Madam,
I wanted to say something.
good evening, madam.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, Narayan, you're there. I thought you were not going to speak up, but finally you did speak up.
Thank you
Narayan
so
is
much,
a
madam.
principal of a college and good need to speak. Yeah.
Thank you so much, madam. As usual, Aruna madam is always a lady with perfection. Whatever work she does with a lot of clarity and involvement. And I'm very happy to say that for every participant, a few months ago, like in the month of May, we have conducted a national seminar in our college, and Madam was the guest speaker, and she was with us for 3 days, and she spent very quality time with all the students and all the faculty members across the India. Around 170 participants participated in the national seminar, and the madam has given very insight information about on diversified areas of film and etc. So we are thankful to you, madam, and really I enjoyed our entire session. It was really useful for everybody. And since I am from academic background, I did not have much knowledge on this film industry and film area. But even though I enjoyed the session, I got to know so many things. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, thank you.
I just also want to add something.
Yes, Kushal.
I'll take a minute. So I think we go with LGBT direction. So I just feel if people have time, so they can read a book, Call Me by Your Name, and then they can watch a film, Call Me by Your Name. So when you read a book, you bit sometimes feel the character is maniac, but when you see the film, it's a two boys in love film. You literally take away the beauty of coming it out, and it's a very beautiful. It's win the Academy for the adapted screenplay. So and also the Carol also is a 2015 release, is a story of a two women in love. I feel like the one thing when I really like that film. So I think the one thing is that I think the intent of the both screenwriter of the film, the adapted screenplay, belongs to that category, and I think the actors were super. But I think the intent for them telling that story, I think, changes the whole game. So I think if people have time, so Carol, I don't know how easily available in a market because it was a 90-50 or some way kind of a book. But Call Me by Your Name book is very easily available in a market. So you can read the book. So somehow you feel he's maniac, but the way that they portrayed and they want, it was a very specific part of the film for that. But it literally transforms you. So I would say it's a great case study. So if people have time to watch Carol, it's for two women in love, and Call Me by Your Name is a two men in love. And I think you really understand that was the intent that changes the whole game, along with the performance and everything.
Absolutely.
And they both are
In your
Oscar winning.
intent, your context finally decides what you're about. Eventually every action you do, everything you write, express yourself, the context, your intent matters most. And that's how, if it's pure, is received in a pure form. It's already messed up. It'll go in a messed up form and in a very distorted form. So you're very right there.
And there's a lot of erotic scenes in both of the films, but they look so connected. Like you never feel like that's why I just pick up those two films. There's a great, and they both have big box office number success also with the big stars and everything.
Kushal, I don't know if you have seen Blue is the Warmest Color. I think that film also portrays the whole the LGBTQ community, the love they have. It's so pure. It's the way they show it. I mean, of course, there are lots of erotic scenes, but then how these two women, they love each other, and then how they see each other, like how they touch each other. Even that is so pure that you get a better perspective of like they are also human beings with the same feelings as we have as straight persons. So I think that is also another eye opener. If anyone is are open to watching it, that is also another film I would really recommend.
Yeah, I also see that film. It's a very good film.
Aruna, I want to thank you for a very lovely facilitation of a lot of ideas. I teach at Pondicherry University in the media department here. And my journey in engaging with film started 30 years ago when I was a student at Jamia in Delhi, where we saw a lot of films, as a student, for various reasons, to try and see not only the form of cinema, the movie, but what was the movie about? What did the movie carry? And Jamia, when we were studying, we had a strong grooming in looking at the content as well, and how the content is presented and put out. But it makes very subtly and over a long time, it makes a lot of difference to the collective consciousness of any community, of any civilization. Because we don't realize, and I think it's beautifully pointed it out in so many ways, that we do not realize that how unconsciously, subconsciously, consciously, slowly, that like water that, seeps in through rocks and then flows on. The messages we keep getting repetitively through the form of the cinema, which engages our senses, and therefore it is so attractive and powerful to us. And how before we realize, these become role models, or these becomes things and we don't question. So I think it's important that cinema helps us to question. And along with questioning, like you rightly pointed out, also the need for compassion. I really like the fact that you try to reconcile, Sridhar's very justified anger, and I love the blast there. I love that you walked in; it was amazing energy. But I also like I really like the way you thanked Arvinder for making that conversation possible, because she raised a perception or a belief that is common. And homophobia is common. We know about so many sorts of attitudes we have where we exclude people because of our judgment or our lack of, like rightly said, lack of awareness or prejudice. So I think that, as an educationist now and earlier as a student of cinema, I strongly believe that the movies have a great role to play to transform us. I mean, it has a great pedagogical value. If like the way you did, you mapped it from the 1913, from the silent movies down to now, and how cinema has looked or not looked at women, how women were invisible, visible, invisible, the erotic, and whatever. And I think that sort of an education is missing in the education system. We're not looking at the intersection between gender and cinema. And I think there needs to be more dialogue and conversations with the youth to sensitize them. And thank you so very much. I utterly enjoyed your session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think for this, we have to thank Sharda for getting hold of me. And, I enjoy doing this because this is something I really, important to me.
Thank you.
All right. So anybody else before we close? Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, for listening so patiently.
We've put the form again, the link for the form again in the chat box. Everybody, please have a look at it and please share your feedback. That's very useful for us when we're organizing, and of course, even the speakers. So please do fill the feedback form. And we will send it by email as well, but please do fill it, because otherwise it just gets delayed and people forget to go back to it later. So yeah, please fill it as soon as possible. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Dr. Sharda?
Yep. Thank you, Aruna, for that very, very interesting and thought-provoking presentation. And I thank each and every one of the participants for their participation and also for raising some important issues. And I look forward to having more such sessions in future. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Sharda. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful session.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, actually, my English is so weak. अब हिंदी talking last, क्योंकि मैम स्टार्टिंग से आपसे मैंने क्लास
हिंदी में बोलिए ना, हिंदी में बोलिए ना, कोई बात नहीं, हिंदी में बोलिए ना।
तो मैम मुझे क्लास में स्टार्टिंग से ज्वाइन करी हुई थी, थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो रही थी मुझे क्लास ज्वाइन करने में। एक्चुअली मेरा नेटवर्क थोड़ा सा इशू चल रहा था यहाँ से। मुझे रियली क्लास बहुत अच्छी लगी। सबने अपने अपने थॉट्स दिए मैम, सबके थॉट्स मैंने सुने। और जेंडर से जेंडर मैम, आई एम एक्टर, आई एम जर्नी स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम दिल्ली। और मुझे इंडस्ट्री के बारे में जानने को और समझने को और मौका मिला। पब्लिक प्लेस, आई एम 21 ईयर ओल्ड एंड आई एम इन पब्लिक प्लेस। इतना कुछ अभी समझ नहीं पाया, जान नहीं पाया, समझ रहा हूँ मैं पूरे समाज को अभी। तो अपनी पूरी 100% कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। और फॉर थॉट जेंडर से जानने के बारे में फिल्म जो 1930 से स्टार्टिंग हुई मैम हमारे फिल्म जर्नी, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा मैम।
1913
यस मैम।
ठीक है।
तो यस मैम, बहुत अच्छा मिलके लगा मैम आपसे। मुझे आपसे मैम पहली बार आपसे मैम मीटिंग हुई है। Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone, and see you another time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you again, Sharda.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for putting it. I filled in the form and submitted it. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
everyone. Bye.